Most importantly, think about the words you use. I want you to be aware of the sound and feel of every single word, the connotations, the meaning being conveyed. You can say so much just with one word. How do we do this well? Read it to mum or dad or your sister or your best friend. Read it aloud. Have you ever had a teacher pick up a story and read it for you and you notice they correct your mistakes and it sounds so much better? You'd much rather they read your story than you. Or have you ever read your story back to a friend and you said, hold on, I need to correct that? That's what you need to do with your own writing. Even in an HSC exam, read it aloud in your head as you're writing. Don't rush the moment. Be aware of it. First thing, the verbs. They are the muscles of your writing, in essay writing and in creative writing. They actually can convey so much. For example, swimming. Swimming can actually be both a noun and a verb, and that's called a gerund. But that swimming could be a motif for example, depression. Swimming underwater, trying to get to the top of the surface and keep your nose above the water. You think about how you can use verbs to convey so much. They are the purveyors of meaning. Polysemy. Polysemy means multifaceted meaning to their words. You know, just two extracts again, two short single sentences from Colin McCann. The orange street light from the window latticed him as he crossed the floor at a clip. What a beautiful use of a verb, latticed. The shadows, the light across his face. Swallows scissored out from underneath the rafters. Have you ever seen a swallow and the way their wings cut through the air? So scissored, you've actually got this beautiful image of the swallows. Imagery is the next thing that you need to do well. And there are so many types of imagery and you need to learn them because you can talk about them when you do the reading task or your essay. There's the visceral, and that means that's what you see with your eyes, the sense of sight. There's the olfactory, that's what you smell. And so much, have you ever had a smell you associate with the past? For me, if I smell a pipe, and that's rare these days, I immediately see my Irish grandfather. He's just back in the room with me the second I do that. Gustatory, it's the taste of things. Auditory, the sounds. Combine them all, we've got synesthesia. More importantly, you also need to think about form and structure and syntax. Syntax, sentence structure, the type of sentences you use. So first of all, make sure you paragraph. Secondly, think about the opening sentence of each paragraph. Think about the length. Don't be afraid to do a single sentence paragraph. Move to your sentence level. Think about lexical density actually means that you've got layers of meaning within a single sentence, and that doesn't mean you use 10 adjectives to get there. It means you do it through your imagery or through your verbs. Vary the length in the beginning. For example, you use a complex sentence, which is a number of sentences joined together. Suddenly you want to shorten the action, so you're going to use a declarative. That's a short statement, a very short, simple sentence. You might actually use a truncated one. That's an incomplete sentence to make a point, just as Colin McCann did in that piece of writing. Think about structure and form, time shifts. Cyclical and elliptical are the same. They're starting and ending in the same place. Flashback into the past. A fragment doesn't have to be a complete story. Intertextuality. Have you read Alice in Wonderland? Have you read something you could actually pull into your own story and use that as a motif in your writing? This is a piece of writing from one of my own students. I'm going to read an extract from it. This young man is a beautiful writer. He loves to write. And I just want you to listen to the sound of the language and the way he used verbs. So let's just set this for a moment. This is on a farm. This young man had just helped his dad the night before with the birthing of a calf. And so this is what happens in the morning. And I want you to notice something unusual. He plays with language. He uses the second person in his writing, not to the reader, but addressing his character. You wrapped the doona around you and made your way out the front door. Stood for a while listening to the vinyl crackle of heat and crickets. You were safe in a blanket submarine, periscoping your vision through a gap. You stayed until your eyes could pick out branches, impressionist in the fabric of the dark. As the sounds grew mute in their constancy, you heard life across the field. You pick your way over each pothole and clump known to you in the way you situate your limbs without looking. Each place linked in spatial presence to each other. The waft of manure and quiet from the stables preceding the flickering of the chicken pen, preceding the old horse who broke your arms, preceding the edge of the farm and the black line of trees beyond. A yard over, the door to the calf pen was unlatched like you'd left it. The night before came back in a dream as you passed over the stench of piss near the door to the must of straw and animal. You ran your hands over the comeliness of flesh until you found the smallest tucked under the heat of his mother, pulled him onto your lap, and felt his warmth and fat on your chest. What's beautiful about that are the sounds, the feel of words. Even when he repeated preceding 3 times, it's called a tricolon. That is, in this one sentence, complex sentence, you repeat that same thing. So it becomes that repetition or an aphra, but a tricolon, beautiful in writing. So a couple of approaches I want you to think about. Discoveries can be questioned or challenged, so you could look at Oppenheimer. Look at his quote in 1965 about the atomic bomb. We have made a thing a most terrible weapon that has altered abruptly and profoundly the nature of the world. There's a great story. Discoveries can offer new understandings and renewed perceptions. You could have a letter or a photograph or a postcard from the past. You could be returning home after a long time. You might have been working in the city and you've forgotten all about your roots, your heritage, and you come back home. Postcards from a dad overseas. Try this one. Imagine you're travelling on a train or a bus, it doesn't matter. Like everyone else, you're immersed in your own world. And I started with this right at the beginning, listening to your iPod. You fail to notice anyone around as you jolt in sync with the rhythm of the train. Opposite you is this tiny little child. It's a 3-year-old, same age as my grandchild. They have the most infectious laugh. The little child starts to giggle and the giggle becomes infectious and everyone notices. And suddenly everyone around the child stops what they're doing and looks at the child. And you describe what you see. And suddenly you're no longer just immersed in your own world, but you see the world for what it is. You see the beauty, the wonder, the awe of humanity. What about this one? We've all got an object that's important to us. A fob watch, a scruffy teddy, a missing eye from a teddy bear. Mine was this. My grandmother had a musty old coat and it used to be in her cupboard and I was always fascinated by it. She never wore it, by the way. Turns out it was her grandmother's. This is a really old coat from Scotland. She had an antique button in that coat pocket that didn't match. I pulled it out and I imagined its story. Think about an object that can trigger a story. You've got photographs that capture a fleeting moment from the past. You must have photographs. I've got some of my uncles and aunts, great-grandparents, etc. I actually have a photograph of my great-great-uncle Fred McCool, who fought in World War II. I look at this young man, how young he is. He nonchalantly gazes into the lens of the camera with his full military uniform. And I wonder what that young man was like when he returned from World War II, because he went in all the worst battles.